It's what we've been waiting for the entire season. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, baby! So, no lengthy introduction, let's get straight to business. Welcome to the penalty box. Woo! Hey guys, sorry this is up so late. I know the first round started already, but work got in the way. I posted a blog before the playoffs started, so you know I won't be cheating. The link to that is down here. Anyway, let's get on with it. Here are my predictions. Starting off with the East, we have the first seed Washington Capitals with the 8th seed New York Rangers. The Rangers and the Capitals have had hot records down the stretch. The Rangers won 6 of their last 10 games, while the Capitals won 7 to push the Flyers out of the top spot in the East. What could turn out to be a big factor in this series is goaltending. Goaltending is always a question mark in Washington because when Varlamov is on, he's on, but when he's not, look out. While Lundqvist is rock solid 99% of the time. True, the Caps have Neuvirth to back up Varlamov, but he's a rookie and he's never played in the postseason before, which is when it becomes a whole different game. Add to this the fact that Washington lost last year to an incredibly hot goalie in Yaroslav Halak, and things suddenly don't look very good in Washington. But in the end, the Caps will be playing hungry. They know what it's like to go through a long summer after a disappointing first round. They definitely want it more than New York does. And in the end, they'll just have too much firepower for a New York squad that's missing Ryan Callahan with a broken ankle. Lundqvist will keep New York in it, but Capitals in 6. The Buffalo Sabres versus the Philadelphia Flyers. This will be an interesting one of the ones to watch from the first round. Looking at the records, Philly limped into the postseason, losing 16 of their last 25 games. That's just cringe-inducing numbers right there. Buffalo, meanwhile, was hot down the stretch, winning 8 of their final 10 and clawing their way into the postseason. Buffalo also beat Philly in their last game, and Philly's missing Chris Pronger for at least game 1, but reports say he's close to returning. Things looking grim in Philadelphia. There's huge potential for an upset here. But Philly does have a chance. I think if Philly wins a couple of games, gets its mojo back, it could start to roll again. It's just a matter of sneaking a few past Ryan Miller, getting Claude Giroux, Mike Richards, Jeff Carter, and Scott Hartnell going again. And that's not even mentioning the fact that they recalled last year's playoff hero Michael Leighton, which makes sense. Would you want to trust a rookie Bobrovsky in the postseason? It all depends on Philly winning 2 of the first 4. If they do that, they can take it. If not, it's Buffalo's series. But I really can't see Buffalo beating the Broad Street Bullies. Philly wins in 6. The Big Bad Bruins versus the Montreal Midgets. They're Canadians, Montreal Canadiens. This playoff series will be one of the 3 series I'm most looking forward to in the first round. The others being Philly versus Buffalo and another matchup in the West that I'll get to later. Perhaps this one more than the other 2, because you have so much drama surrounding this one. Montreal and Boston are historic rivals with always intense matchups, so there's that. Then there's the Max Pacioretty incident, and a whole host of others to get this thing going. The biggest issue here is the Habs' size. They're the smallest team in the league, matching up against a pretty big and tough one. With Zdeno Chara and Milan Lucic staring down Mike Camilleri and Brian Gionta, you can't like that matchup. And the main question is, can Carey Price be the new Yaroslav Halak? If he can, well, the Habs look good. And Price had a good season, but he was never unstoppable to the same degree that Halak was. In the end, I just think Boston's a better rounded team, offensively, defensively, and equally good in net with Tim Thomas and Tuukka Rask. If Boston can play their game, impose their will, and dominate physically, this will be over early, just like it was in 2009, the last time these 2 teams met in the playoffs. Boston in 5. The Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Initially, without Crosby or Malkin, the Pens looked like lost sheep. But, miraculously, they managed to turn it around, winning 8 of their last 10 games. Tampa Bay has also been hot down the stretch, winning 7. Tampa definitely has the edge in star power with Martin St. Louis and Steven Stamkos lighting it up, both having close to 100-point seasons. They've also got Dwayne Rollison backing them up, and he can be a real difference maker. The Penguins do know what it takes to win, but they're missing Crosby and Malkin, and if I had to take someone in a goaltending duel between Fleury and Rollison, I gotta go with Rolly the goalie. If Pittsburgh gets Crosby back soon, things could turn around, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen this round. Tampa Bay in 7. Alright, moving on to the West now, we have the President's Trophy winning Vancouver Canucks facing off against the defending Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks. And this is the matchup I will be watching the closest. Because anytime these two teams get together, you can see some of the best hockey you've ever seen. Outside of Toronto, of course. And if I was a Vancouver fan, I might be a little worried. Vancouver has faced Chicago in 2 straight playoffs, both times in the second round, and both times got eliminated. However, Chicago has a new look this season, having shipped off Brent Sopel, Chris Versteeg, and playoff hero Dustin Byfuglien, just to name a few. Then again, they still have their big weapons in Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, and Marian Hossa. Vancouver is not without firepower of its own with the Sedin twins and Kessler, and arguably hockey's greatest goaltender right now, Roberto Luongo. Tough one to pick up, especially with Luongo's perceived choking abilities, but I think we should give him some credit for bringing home the gold medal. Ultimately, I think the matchup with Chicago is a mental block more than anything else. The Canucks will be hungry for revenge, and it'll be great for them to get the monkey off their backs early on. Because if they get over this mental hurdle, I think they're going to go deep. They just need a couple of wins to get their confidence going, because if the Blackhawks get into their heads, it could be scary for Canada's Western hope. But in the end, I say Vancouver wins this one in 7. Alright, the all-California matchup, the San Jose Sharks versus the LA Kings. Year after year, the Sharks remain a juggernaut. While Chicago saw a meteoric rise last season to champion and a crash this season to 8th, the San Jose Sharks stayed even at 2nd place. Maybe not the best in the league, but not far off either. LA, meanwhile, was in a dogfight for the postseason all season long and scraped their way into the playoffs. To be honest, the Sharks have an overwhelming advantage on paper. I mean, Danny Heatley, Patty Marleau, Big Joe Thornton, and Little Joe Pavelski, who had a great year after breaking out in the playoffs last year, and Cup winner Antti Niemi as the goalie. Who does LA have? Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, and yeah, the Sharks had choking issues in the past, but they made the conference finals last year, so yeah, that takes care of that. San Jose wins in 4. Sweep! Remember that dogfight I talked about earlier? That's what characterized the West this year. Parity. And that's exemplified in these next 2 matchups. First, the Detroit Red Wings versus the Phoenix Coyotes is a grudge match from last year's first round playoff matchup. These teams had similar records over the last 10 games. Their top forwards have almost even stats. Their goaltender save percentage is neck and neck. It's almost eerie. The main things Phoenix has to do here is disrupt Detroit's game plan. Because when the playoffs start, no matter what, Detroit goes deep. Almost a lock for the second round each and every time, with the exception of the major upset by Edmonton a while back. Detroit is coached so well with Mike Babcock that when you let them play their way, they will destroy you. That's why Detroit contends every year. So Phoenix is going to have to play physical Canadian-style hockey and win this game in the trenches. It's the only way you can beat them. But Detroit's been here before. I see them dominating again. Detroit in 6. The Anaheim Ducks versus the Nashville Predators. Now, to be honest, I don't know much about either team, except that they're the same team. Identical points, almost identical win-loss record, almost identical record down the stretch. Very hard to pick a winner in this one. But the thing about Nashville is that they win or lose with goaltender Pekka Rinne. Rinne is a great goaltender and he's kept them in it. They need him to have a big series if they're going to win this one. Because aside from Rinne, who do they have? Their 2 biggest point getters are Sergei Kostitsyn and Martin Erat with 50 points apiece. I mean, yeah, they have one of the best D-men in the league with Shea Weber, and they have Mike Fisher, but Mike Fisher had a terrible season, which is why he was traded from Ottawa. The Ducks, meanwhile, are polar opposites with forwards like Teemu Selanne, Ryan Getzlaf, Bobby Ryan, and Maurice Richard winner Corey Perry, who can light it up. It's all about finding Rinne's weakness, and with the firepower the Ducks have, they can do it. Ducks in 5. And lastly, like every year, I have to pick a Stanley Cup winner. The contender from the East, Philadelphia. Philly didn't have a great finish, but they've been here before and they know what they need to do to reach the finals. It's all about finding their mojo. I want to add though that if they don't, I think Boston has an equally good chance of going all the way. They're a fantastic team too. The contender from the West, Vancouver. They're great all around with the best goalie in the league and the last two Art Ross Trophy winners in their lineup. That's a tough combo to beat. So who's the winner? Vancouver wins the Stanley Cup in 6 games. Why? I just want the Stanley Cup back north of the border where it belongs. And this is our best chance since 1993. If it can't be the Leafs, I'll take Vancouver. Anyway, that's it. Hope you're enjoying the playoffs. I'll see you all after the first round.